Hello everyone, this video is in our human chess series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are going to be having a look at the game Nepomniachtchi against Carlsen, 9th game of the World Championship from an engine perspective. And in particular we are going to be focusing on the very early opening phase, which I think demonstrates the depth and the quality of the preparation of both sides. So the game started c4, e6, g3, d5, bishop g2, and I kind of think that this type of system might well have been considered by Magnus as white against Jan's black repertory in the match, because, you know, after one knight f3, d5, d4, knight f6, g3, Jan played e6. So I was kind of assuming that after c4, Jan would also play e6 as well. However, after g3, d5, bishop g2, Magnus played the move d4, which again is not really the sort of thing I think Jan would have done, because Jan seemed to be sticking very much to his schemes and systems. So, you know, I'd assumed that that Jan in this position would have played the move knight f6, trying to head back to a Catalan. But d4 was played by Magnus. It's the top move at ChessDB. It's also a move that I've played a lot. I like it very much. It really feels like a way to cross White's system and not sort of try and let White try lots of different stuff with move orders to get you out of the Catalan you want. It just takes some space and says to White, well, I'm going to make you suffer for what you failed to do, i.e. take control of the centre. So after knight f3, Magnus now played knight c6. I've played c5 quite a bit. I mean, White can often play ideas like b4 and get a Benko gambit a tempo up. Just in general, yeah, I've always found the Benko gambit a tempo up a little bit disappointing for White. But yeah, I mean, it's a decent, serious idea, and yeah, maybe not the sort of thing you'd want to allow your opponent in a World Championship match. So knight c6 is a very nice move. And now castles. And then this is the moment that I really want to focus on, because it's actually quite important. So with White being a tempo up, of course, and also Black having played e6 and, well, having to waste another tempo on e5 if Black wants to occupy the centre, there are quite a few chances for White that you wouldn't really see when you play this as a normal Black system. So one of the ideas that White has got is to play the move e2 to e3, attacking the pawn on d4, and Black's got to be ready for that. And really, Black's got two possibilities, and I think that Magnus chose the way that was probably the very easiest to remember, because yeah, there is another way of playing that's pretty good, but that's also more complicated. The more complicated way is to play knight to f6 and to meet e3 then with e5. Now the key thing after this is that if you play e takes d4 here, you shouldn't play e takes d4. These structures are actually quite annoying for Black. I've tried them a number of times in engine training matches, you know, when I was preparing this line with Black, and had very poor results against my engines. And you know, the result itself, of course, is what you expect, but it's more the way the game proceeded, which was somewhat depressing. For example, a game I ran between Dragon 2.5 and Revenge carried on like this: knight a3, Revenge took, bishop f4, knight d7, rook b1, rook b5, knight g5, which is kind of typical of, you know, what always happens to me. I always find difficulties in covering you know, all my weak points. c7, trying to establish something on c5, the king side as well. You know, c7 is often weak, combination of a bishop and f4 and normally a knight on b5, and here yeah, Dragon won quite comfortably in the end. Revenge got some counterplay against the d3 pawn, but it was never enough. But after e takes d4, you've got this very serious move e4. And this is just quite a nice pawn sacrifice. The idea is white goes knight g5. That's absolutely the best move. And then knight takes d4, knight takes c4, takes, and now there's various ways of playing. h5 is what both Stockfish and Koivisto 7.9 wanted to play. Rook e1, bishop e7, knight c3, c6, d3, bishop g4. This is Stockfish Koivisto, one of my engine games. f3, bishop e6, and you know, it's not that that black is just killing white or anything like this, but this bishop e4 is awkward. The d3 pawn is backwards. You know, plenty of open lines for the pieces. It's very much just like a marshal in actual fact. You know, the marshals that Magnus wanted to play, something like game one. You know, where you just clear the center of pawns, active pieces, a few weaknesses in the opponent's position, and you claim you're fine. And well, indeed, I mean, in my games, white never managed to make anything of this at all. Black was always pretty active. Of course, the engines make it look quite easy. It's never as simple as that when you try and do it yourself. But yeah, this was pretty convincing, really. After here, a draw was soon agreed, just because the white position is a bit wrecked, even though he's a pawn up. So that's quite interesting, this idea of e5, e4. But of course, it is quite complicated. What Magnus did was very nice indeed. There's just one thing that I should point out here, is that after e3, e5, you could go d3 in this position, but then you play this nice move bishop c5, and that's really stopping white from thinking of playing a knight on d2 because of d takes e3, and then of course d3 hangs as well as e3. And after e takes d4, I mean, there's a couple of interesting possibilities. You could again just play martial style, just sacrifice a pawn and claim compensation. But bishop takes d4 is what my engines want, and you'll notice how careful the engines are. They are never going for this structure with e takes d4, which I like very much in actual fact. I mean, it just shows the quality of the engines, their positional judgment, but also makes me happy because I discovered this for myself quite a long time ago. So knight a3, bishop c5, knight c2, bishop f5. This was a game of revenge against a dragon. It was quite interesting actually. Little pawn sacrifice from revenge. But this was quite fun. Takes, h5 of course. And I mean, both sides had their play, but the position was about equal. So very, very interesting line there. Knight f6 possible. Bishop c5 is another very good way to deal with this rapid e3 idea. And the idea is here, you don't play the move knight f6 because after knight f6, then white can play b4. You could even play it in this move order: takes, knight takes, and b4. This was one of the engine suggestions, which is super, but doesn't actually make that much difference. So b4, bishop takes b4, and then we go e takes d4. Knight takes, queen a4 check. We'll pick up the bishop. You'll get your queen trapped if you try and take my rook on a1. And after castles, we go bishop b2, and this is a slight advantage for white. Double pawns on the centre, but hard to get at from the black point of view, and they control a lot of territory as well. What did we have? This was dragon against revenge. Knight bd2, takes, bishop a6, rook c1. It's just knight a5, bishop a1. Just a pleasant position for white. Centre's very strong there. Pieces are well placed in the centre. Black pieces are a little bit odd. Revenge managed to hold this, but was actually just a pawn down in the middle game. So, but after bishop c5, e3. E3. We play the move knight ge7. That's the key point. We haven't committed the knight to f6, so we can put the knight on e7. And what's the big idea about this? Well, after b4, first of all, we can go knight takes b4, because the knight on e7 is covering the c6 square. Takes. is sharp, but doesn't seem to be anything special for white. Queen a4 check, we go knight b6, and here the knight on e7 coming in handy, and after knight c3 we just go castles, bishop b2 and rook d8, for example, rook a b1, queen d3. This was stockfish against Leela, and just really turned out quite well. Slightly sharp tactics, but something like this was never going to trouble Leela. a4, knight d5. So that looked quite even. There was another interesting idea. You could also go queen b3 in this position, and then we get these sharp ideas, knight d3. So hitting the bishop on c1, pawn on f2, rook on a1. And we got some crazy stuff here. Bishop c5, bishop d7, rook f1, queen e5, d4, knight c3, f5, queen b7. Total mess, but you can imagine. I mean, it's compensation for white, but it's not anything like a win at all. And these games were just ending up as sharp draws all the time. These were games between Stockfish and Leela. So again, this plan of e3, knight e7 is very, very nice here, and really just working very well indeed. So you could also play this idea still, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, and then b4, and after bishop b4 ed, then you've managed to avoid queen takes d4 from black because of queen a4 check again. Knight c6, you've got bishop takes c6. However, after castles, this is the key point, Leela much prefers the positions with the knight on e7 rather than the knight on f6, because this knight can come to f5 and attack the pawn on d4. This was a game revenge against Dragon, and it's just it was pretty tight and tough fight, but black was absolutely fine. So quite subtle in actual fact. This idea of bishop c5 to meet e3 with knight e7, delaying the development of the knight in order to be able to put it onto a superior square. However, after bishop c5, Jan played the subtle move d3, and here again, Magnus showed his great preparation here by reacting properly, because here after d3, you do not want to play the move knight e7, because white goes knight bd2, and now actually this bishop is in a little bit of trouble. We're actually threatening to play knight b3 and then trap it with c5 when it goes back to b6. Now if you go a5, there's a very strong idea here, completely unintuitive in fact, but a very strong idea, which is to play a4 from white. And the idea is you're just going to line up with bishop d2, queen e1, and then play c5, chase the bishop away, and then win the pawn on a5. Quite amazing, but it really works. Here in this game, somehow, Revenge was trying to deal with it, but it came in the end, and it was extremely dangerous for black. So after knight e7, knight bd2, you can play a move like knight f5 and allow the bishop back, but this knight's not great on f5. It doesn't really want to be there. So white can carry on. I mean, this is how it went, Revenge against Dragon again. And this turned out quite well, g5, trying to gain some space, c5, b4, g4 now, takes, knight h2. And black was in some difficulties. This pawn restricts f5. This knight is glorious. It actually looks like a dream grob, this, with the pawn on g4, and then securing a square on e4. And of course, there's the queenside advance to consider as well. Dragon managed to hold it, but it was quite nasty. So what Magnus did after e3, you were supposed to go knight e7, but after d3, Magnus played knight f6. And then after knight bd2, now black plays the move a5. It's a very useful move, a5. Stops white from playing b4, which is a key idea. But black waited here with a5 before white played knight bd2, so you didn't get the chance of playing knight a3 to b5. So after knight d2, now you go a5, knight b3, bishop e7. Yeah, and after e3 takes, knight g4. Yeah, the position was interesting, but yeah, just really a slight advantage for white, I think, but just quite unbalanced. In principle, as black, I'd be delighted to get a position like this. I'm plenty of play and activity, and chances for both sides. So I thought this was a very nice opening preparation from both sides, actually. First of all, the idea of playing this from Jan, then Magnus's understanding of this next phase with bishop c5, the subtlety, Jan not playing e3 but playing d3. And then, again, the understanding from Magnus, first of all, to play the knight to f6 rather than e7 in this specific move order, and then to play a5 once white had committed the knight to d2 and not to a3. Yeah, there we are. So, I mean, I hope that's proved interesting. It's just, it is possible with some good engine games and a bit of thinking about the opening and how it happens to get a bit of a grip of how these World Championship teams have prepared. And well, what you normally see when you do this is just that the depth and the precision is incredible. And here, just for pretty much a sideline, you see Magnus playing an extremely precise and concrete move order that really keeps any white advantage to an absolute minimum. And really impressive stuff, and really impressive stuff from Jan as well to try this as white. So there we are. If you like the video, why not give it a like and even subscribe to the channel to be kept up to date with all sorts of stuff like this. Also, maybe take a look at the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, my new book, which has got lots of analysis like this, just explaining chess through engine analysis and engine games, which after all is the best chess on the planet. And well, otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you at the next video.